KitKat may have an interesting new collab on its hands. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is our website. You could go there to learn all about us and our other podcast, TFG on Button, which drops on Tuesdays. And you'll also learn about our partners in crime here on the Focus Group, and one of them would be Deep Discount. Very happy to have them on board with us. We'll be visiting with them a little bit later in the show. Mr. Bennett, I did it on Unbuttoned. I have to do it again. The Happy Pride, the Leprechaun. He gets boxed pretty soon, and then he goes away. So before we get too far, I think you had said you had watched the Tony Awards the other night. We did too. I was kind of like, I always say this about these award shows. You know, I'll just say this. I remember one year Sir Michael Caine won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. He gets up. He said, I am in the greatest of company. He named each other nominee. He thanked the Academy, thanked Hollywood. It's a wonderful career, and he's off the stage.
Yeah.
And I thought, why can't they all be like that? Now, do you feel it's necessary to thank everybody when you're on stage?
I want to thank everyone who had anything to do with me winning this award tonight. Have a great evening.
But that was not your main gripe of the show, or?
Well, no. I had my back to the screen. So Richard, who's a show tune queen, I guess, or a musical, Broadway fan, and we have a number of friends who are, and a lot of people listen to the show who are, and who doesn't love a good musical. However, as I'm listening to it, and I'm hearing the acts in the background performing, because I was doing some work on the computer. The
snippets from each show, yeah.
And I turned around and I said to Richard, I said, Broadway musicals are no different than business books. And he looks at me and goes, what? I said, there's only been one business book ever written. They just changed the title and a little bit of the content. And he goes, what do you mean? And so as these songs are being played, when they would do the best musical or the best song or whatever, best score, I would sing along something else, like from Chorus Line, which matched perfectly with whatever they were singing, or something from Rent. I said, it's just Rent redone, or the Gutenberg, whatever that hell. I said, it's just the producers. I said, all of these shows are just redone from, I said, every guy on Broadway has the same voice, the same tone with their voice. Who the hell does the King of England think he is? And I said, this is no different than, who is that?
I'm sure this was, did this drop like a grenade on Richard? I mean,
well, he starts laughing, and then I said, listen to it. I said, this is just chorus line score. I said, this is a chorus line score in the background, just with a slight tweak, or this is the... He's like, you're horrible. I can't believe you're saying that. And I said, well, so the whole show, the whole Tonys, anytime something was on, I would find something that I thought sounded like it and sing it along. And then he would, particularly with Hell's Kitchen, I said, it's just Rent. It's just Rent. So anyway.
Even the set looks a little bit the same.
Yes. So anyway, and then the one with I thought it was The Outsiders or whatever it was, but it was the one with the guys all dancing around in the wet or whatever. And I was singing the theme from Grease. Oh, Grease lightning, a quarter mile. Grease lightning, go, Grease. Yeah. I said, it's the same songs. Anyway, so that was my view of the Tonys, that there's been only one musical ever written. Everybody has strife and trauma, family dysfunction. There's no place like home. You got to make your way back home. And there's a song that in the
you
big
brought
crescendo.
Up the hero's journey that you and I learned in.
Sing every
little step she takes.
Yeah.
Tits and ass can save your life. They sure save mine.
Right. That's the stuffs. That song was, anyway. So, but I enjoyed it for that. But Richard didn't find that funny.
I enjoyed those bits, but when people came up and unfolded a piece of paper.
Yes.
Or let me turn my phone on. Like, this is such an important night, you couldn't memorize the darn thing? Or be like Sir Michael Caine. There are many people responsible for my success. Thank you all. Goodbye. I mean, the most gracious speech I've ever. And that was the same year our friend John Hannity sat next to Michael Caine in the Oscars ceremony. And they're getting ready to do his award. But during one of the commercial breaks, Michael Caine says to John, he goes, well, what do you do? And John's like, well, I'm in production. I'm in finance. I'm in charge of, finding money for the movies and stuff like that. He goes, your job is far more important than mine.
Well, exactly, right?
It's the money. Yeah.
Hey, did you see, also I wanted to tell you, did you see that Dr. Pepper has surpassed Pepsi as the number one selling soft drink, which I was
very pleased to see that, actually, because Dr. Pepper was one of our personal favorites. In fact, am I mistaken that Diet Dr. Pepper is one of your favorites?
Well, it used to be. I stopped drinking soda about 20
Same
years
here.
ago. But so Diet Coke is still the king, or Coca-Cola. I forget which one. It's either Diet Coke or regular Coke. And then Pepsi was always number 2. But now Dr. Pepper has moved into number 2. And I just remember a number of guys, as we were getting older in the city, that started to have children, would say that their little secret was at night when they took the kids to the park was to dump a little bourbon into their Dr. Pepper. Kind of a little modified Manhattan.
And I'm sure that you remember the Dr. Pepper jingle.
I'm a pepper, he's a pepper.
I drink Dr. Pepper because I'm proud. I'm part of an original crowd. Yeah, okay. See,
and Dr. Pepper, Jeff Walters, who's now the president at Subaru, turned me on to the Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
And it really is, I think, the best tasting diet soda if you're going to drink it.
Completely agree. Completely agree that was the best diet, period. Because it tasted a lot like...
it.
Yeah, which is what you want, just the diet version. Yeah. I got one for you. We have a listener named Jill who sent me an email with 2 pictures attached. She knows of my love of cycling and of my love of the big event that's coming up in July, and that would be the Tour de France.
Oh, my God.
So she said, I thought you would find this lots of fun and interesting. And she sent me 2 pictures of what appear to be Lego sets that are themed to the Tour de France. So I look at either one of them and I thought, well, I should get one of these and I could build it and set it up for the month of July and then take it apart. It would be like how Bob does Christmas, right? The Tour de France. I go online, I start searching for Tour de France Lego sets. Nothing comes up on the official website, but what came up, and I eventually found the 2 pictures, found the site where these pictures came from, these were people's dream sets.
Oh.
These are things they wanted Lego to do, and hopefully they'll do it. And when I zoomed in on one of these pictures really close, I realized that this was done by AI. Because AI does funny things with typography and words sometimes. So as you zoom into these, you realize that it doesn't say what it says. It's just more like shapes, like for some of the typography.
I was laughing because I thought the riders looked a little squatty and the bikes looked almost mountain bikey. Right, the little squatty rider. Like, you're not going to have that little short squatty rider, would you?
Well, it's like a minifig, these Lego minifigs they call them. But a big, big thank you to Jill because it's a total, as they say in the Sprider world, chapeau, that hats off to acknowledging my love of cycling in the Tour de France. I thought that was kind of fun.
It is fun. It's funny that you said it was a dream or the dream set or something, because I wondered I'm like, okay, you would build the little guys on the bikes. Is that about it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Build the mountain, maybe the road.
Yeah, but see, I would buy it. So that's why people have these things.
Oh, of course you would. Yeah, of course you would.
All right, folks. We're going to move into a couple of our segments now. Normally we just do banter. We catch up like we've done now. We have a segment called Caught Our Eye. We bring news items to each other's attention. Then we visit with our partner, Deep Discount. And then we take a quick break. Business Birthday, the only show in the universe that does that. And we have a shop talk on IKEA today and how they've had to cut. Actually, I'm stunned at this. 60,000 people a year cycle through, if I got that number right. So they wanted to cut down on attrition, and we'll go into that. But without further ado, what caught your eye, Mr. Bennett?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
So this is under the category, John, of kind of what would you do? And so this actually came from People Magazine, which I was surprised about because People Magazine online at least seems to have a different focus than the magazine. But the headline is, Man Cancels Family Get-Together After Brother-in-Law Drives Over His Porsche with a Huge Pickup Truck. So this has stirred up a conversation on Reddit and a number of things online. There was a family get-together that was going to happen. People were driving 3 to 5 hours away to get to this big family get-together of extended family for a big barbecue at this guy's house. And what has happened is this guy had a Porsche 911 worth a couple $100,000 parked in the driveway. This is the family that's hosting the barbecue for the family. And he says he's watching outside and he sees this, his brother-in-law pull into the driveway on his phone, not paying attention. and essentially coming right into the drive and drives over up on top of this guy's Porsche. So he says, at this point, I look out there. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I'm steamed. The car was totaled. And now guests are starting to arrive because it's time for the barbecue. And so he said, just as people were starting to arrive, I was so mad that I was in no barbecue mood or barbecued mode that I told everybody to just go home. And I canceled the event. So the day after, his wife writes that she was very angry with her husband because they had family that had driven 3 to 5 hours just to come to this event, and he sent them home as soon as they got there. The guy who canceled the event, whose car was ruined, said he's waiting for his insurance payout. The insurance isn't going to cover it all. It was a $225,000 vehicle. He just bought it last year. It's not been paid off yet. His brother-in-law's insurance won't cover all the costs, so he's going to have to sue his brother-in-law to get the car paid for. And so the wife says, this isn't just all about you. We were having this, barbecue for the family, and I don't think it was right for you to have canceled this and not let me know and just start sending people away. So the family's mad. And so people had gone to Reddit and said, what would you have done or how would you have felt? Do you agree with the guy that he should have canceled the barbecue, or do you just suck it up that your car got hit and you deal with it later?
I'm erring on the side of cancellation.
Really?
How into the barbecue would you be when your car's been totaled by that action, right? Like I would you have kept the barbecue?
I probably would have, because I looked at it this way: if you had your bike,
yeah,
probably has more value to you than your car in terms of what you. In
True.
terms of your feeling about it. So if you had your racing bike that's worth several thousands of dollars parked in the driveway, and your brother-in-law or sister or somebody came in and drove over it, and you were having a family get-together, what would you do? Would you just say, we'll deal with it later? Or would you say, that's it, we're done, we're not having any barbecue, party's over, go home?
Was it truly an accident?
He says the brother-in-law was on the phone and
he
wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
And he had a big pickup truck. It also says this huge pickup truck. So it was one of those. And the Porsche's low to the ground. Mm-hmm. So he came in and drove up on it and hit it, I guess.
Well, drove up on it.
Well, it says he hit it,
going
but
up yeah.
Yeah. So it was totaled. So it had to, it was quite a hit. It wasn't a little bump. I don't know. I guess I would have. I guess it depends on what your relationship is with the brother-in-law, whether you want to have the barbecue anyway. Which, I think you understand. So you understand that part of it too, right?
There's a bit of nuance to how you would answer this then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you, I didn't want to have this damn thing anyway, and now look at this, so get the hell out of here. Or are you upset because Aunt Marge just drove 4 hours from Baltimore to come to the picnic and you sent her home? Turn around, go home.
Yeah, so there's that. You don't want to be discourteous and you don't want to put people out. But at the same time, if you're a host and your little pride and joy just got run over by a big, gnarly pickup truck, I don't know. You'd be in a weird mood. It reminds me of the time I was pulling into the garage. Like when I have the bike on top of the car, before we pull into our garage, I have to get out and take the bike off because the car's too tall. One time I came in and this guy says to me, one of the garage attendants, he said that this guy pulls in one day, husband and wife, and she pulls in and she forgets that the bike is on the top of the car. Ooh. And it rips the rack off and the windshield popped off, and it pulled back part of the roof from the impact.
Oh my God.
And he said the car was a wreck, the bike was a wreck, and a huge screaming match ensued with the husband, blaming the wife. I mean, that's an example
idiot.
Do you even go home? Like, is she just going to walk around for a while? I mean, it's strange. In other words, the brother-in-law says it was an accident.
Supposedly, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it is an accident. I mean, I don't think the guy wanted to hit
intentionally,
because his truck probably got damaged as well.
Probably not as badly as the Porsche, but
no. I think I would probably still have had the
barbecue.
Particularly if family was coming from far away. I guess you have to deal with it later.
Well, you're a very gracious host.
I don't know about that, but I certainly, Yeah, or you talk it over with your spouse. I mean, that was the thing. He just arbitrarily decided party was over.
Party was over. Done.
So,
My car's ruined. Interesting one. I teased mine at the start of the show today. I came across this at first thinking, well, I'll let everybody interpret it. So the headline reads, Heinz and KitKat surprise social media with bizarre KitKat'Chup branding. So there was a trend on TikTok where people were putting ketchup on anything. And they would sample it and they would comment. They'd stare at the camera. They'd eat something. And this thing where people were putting ketchup on Kit Kats caught on. And there's a bunch of TikToks where people literally put ketchup on a Kit Kat bar and eat it. And they're, oh, it's delicious. So Heinz and Kit Kat actually did something that is unusual in corporate America. They moved very quickly to capitalize on this viral trend. And they created fake packaging for what could be called the KitKat'Chup flavor, and they put it on social media within, I think it was a day or within hours of this viral thing taking off, and everybody thought it was real. The company got flooded with like, "Can you buy this? Is this is this disgusting? Is this real?" And that's basically the story. Is that that someone in corporate was like, we can jump on this and right. It's not real, but we're going to make something out of it. So, they had things like with the phrase, have a break, have a Heinz. Normally it's have a break, have a Kit Kat. Kit Kat could be seen as diluting its famous tagline, while Heinz took clever advantage with the comment riffing on its own. Even with its Kit Kat, it has to be Heinz. So they just had fun with it back and forth, the two marketing departments. And no, they're not going to sell. This article that I read was quick to point out this is not something you could buy, but they just had fun with it. And I think that that's one of those things with social media that seemed to me like if you had been at Kit Kat and you had seen this and someone came into you and said, Mr. Bennett, we have an idea. We could just do a social media post. It's going to take our art department 2 hours to create a fake package. What do you think? Would you have done it?
Yeah. I mean, I think things like this, that's when social media can be fun. Mm-hmm. Although I think there's so many crazy things out there, I would have believed it. We had a listener, our listener, Steve in New York, Steve Dilworth in New York, and a couple of other listeners, guy Jim in Pittsburgh, had sent the Sour Patch Kids Oreos, which to me sound disgusting.
Are they real?
They're a real thing. I thought it was a joke. And I said to Steve, because he had sent it to me, and also Jim, and I said, is it real? He said, yes. And he said, I bought a pack. I'll let you know what I think. I haven't heard yet from him. But I was in the grocery store the other day, and I saw them. And I thought of picking up a...
You should have photographed it or picking up a pack, yeah.
I thought of picking up a bag, but
it's a waste of
Sour
money.
Patch, Sour Patch Kids are really sour, right?
Oh,
they're those sour gummy things.
They are, yeah.
So I thought, how is that? And it's on the vanilla wafer cookie.
Ooh.
So it's that. I'm guessing it's just a sour cream. I don't know. I couldn't figure out what the flavor would have been. I probably should have bought one or opened it up in the store. Oops.
Sour Patch, they are so sour. Years ago, when Bob was finishing, Bob had chemotherapy, and there's a point. Anybody who's listening who's had chemo knows that at some point everything tastes like tin or metal. Like you lose that. I remember one time I picked him up at the train station upstate, and I'd gone to the grocery store, and I got this big bag of Sour Patch Kids, and he opens them up and he starts eating them, and he goes, "Oh, actually, these are delicious. I can taste them." But he could barely taste them. But they were that sour and that sweet that they would cut through that. Like I think months later, when he was not having any of that, he had a Sour Patch. His whole face puckered up. He's like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Yeah." So interesting. That's I don't know that Sour Patch Oreo thing to me sounds.
Well, if
I'd rather have a key lime pie cookie or, frankly, key lime pie ice cream. And we know that message is going out. There's the orange ice cream, key lime pie.
Kate.
Yeah. All right. As many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we would like you to visit their site by going to ours, focusgroupradio.com, clicking on the Deep Discount logo, and you can begin your shopping extravaganza. Everything from books, vinyl records, record players, toys, games. Tim and I usually center on books and movies, books, and TV shows. And in fact, it is a site-wide summer sale. You can take advantage of excellent pricing, and sometimes, if depending on the quantity that you buy, free shipping as well. So we'll start there. And Mr. Bennett, what have you? Oh, sorry, I should say, in honor of Happy Pride Month, Tim and I have been choosing LGBTQ titles available at deep discount that you may have seen and forgotten, or that if you haven't seen, we think you should see. And we have a couple in the past shows that we chose. But Mr. Bennett, what did you pick this week?
So in honor of that, I picked one that I had seen. It's from a movie that came out in 1982 called Death Trap. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember Death Trap.
I was so happy when you sent this over because it's based on a stage play. And it has two of my favorite people, Christopher Reeves and Sir Michael Caine.
Sir Michael Caine and Diane Cannon as the wife. And essentially, Michael Caine is a screenwriter, and he has writer's block, and this young student, Christopher Reeve, writes this story, and Michael Caine convinces his wife that they're going to kill this kid, and they're going to be able to take the story for their own. And but in the twists and the turns of it, which is what I loved about it, I remember watching it for the first time, is that Michael Caine and Christopher Reeve actually have a relationship, and that was all a ruse for the wife to try to figure out how to kill the wife. And it's considered a black comedy. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching it. I remember how shocked I was when there was a screen kiss between Christopher Reeve and Michael Caine. I don't know if you remember that scene.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And they said, they talked about when they originally screened the movie that audiences in Denver where they previewed the movie actually booed when they actually had the kiss. And they said that the Time magazine had said that kiss spoiled the movie, and it cost the film over $10 million in ticket sales. And they said people were screaming, "No, Superman, don't do it," at the moment of the Caine-Reeve kiss. And I'd never heard that before. But,
neither have I.
But they talked about how it was so controversial, and they said critic Roger Ebert at the time said that the movie was a comic study of ancient and honorable human defects, including greed, envy, lust, pride, avarice, sloth, and falsehood. But fun movie, twists and turns. I don't know, fun movie. But if you like those sort of twists and turns in a black comedy, I remember being shocked by it as a young adult watching it.
It holds up.
1982.
It really holds up, and it basically is a one set show. Like everything takes place in that dining room, living room, fireplace thing. Yep. When you sent this, I was like, wow, I'm glad you did this, because I totally would have. I have to add this to our summer our what do we call it, camp focus group.
Camp focus group.
Our list of LGBTQ titles. I picked a movie called Jeffrey.
Oh yes.
And Jeffrey came out in the early 90s. I think it was like 95, I want to say. Let's see here.
Yep,
yeah, 95. And it's a movie that it takes place with the backdrop of HIV/AIDS. But interestingly, it's a movie that really starred a lot of straight actors playing gay actors or gay characters. And I don't think back in the 90s I cared about that. It was just amazing to see any representation of an LGBTQ lifestyle on screen. So Jeffrey, the titular character, is played by Steven Weber of Wings fame. He's a struggling actor in New York, and he makes a vow that's going to change his life. He swears off sex forever. But no sooner does he swear off sex than he meets Steve, who's played by the actor Michael T. Weiss from The Pretender. And in Jeffrey's circle of friends, there's Sterling, Sir Patrick Stewart from Star Trek The Next Generation, Darius, Brian Batt from Mad Men. And there's also a cast that includes Olympia Dukakis, Nathan Lane, Christine Baranski, Victor Garber, Kathy Najimy, and Sigourney Weaver. So it's like this all-star kind of cast. And in here, of course, there are some LGBTQ performers, namely Nathan Lane, and I think Victor Garber, who plays Thomas Andrews, the architect on Titanic. But the movie is about, what happens when you meet what could be the love of your life, and then you learn unexpected news about this individual that has part of that backdrop of HIV/AIDS in it. So, Jeffrey, I haven't seen the film in a while, which is why I picked it, because I think I'd like to see it again and see how I feel about it now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, so many of these movies, I'm glad you picked this, because so many of these movies that we watched, it would be interesting to see how they hold up now, 20 years later, right? I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I find 20, 30 years later.
Yeah, totally. 30, 35 years later. And we do have a new release this week. And the movie is American Fiction, starring Jeffrey Wright. This is a movie that I really want to see, and I am going to order it. Jeffrey Wright plays an author. So it's Cord Jefferson's hilarious directorial debut, which confronts our culture's obsession with reducing people to outrageous stereotypes. Jeffrey Wright stars as Monk, a frustrated novelist who's fed up with the establishment profiting from, air quotes, black entertainment that relies on tired and offensive tropes. To prove his point, Monk uses a pen name to write an outlandish black book of his own, a book that propels him to the heart of hypocrisy and the madness he claims to disdain. So yeah, American Fiction got great reviews. I love Jeffrey Wright as an actor. I actually love the packaging for this. So there we go. That's the new release.
Yeah, my neighbor Joyce across the street recommended this movie. So
Did she?
Yeah, she really enjoyed it. So hey, as John mentioned, head over to Deep Discount by going to our site, which is focusgroupradio.com. You'll see the Deep Discount logo there. They're having a site-wide summer sale, and also we've added to it with something we call Camp Focus Group, where we're picking out some of our favorite or maybe forgotten LGBTQ titles that you should consider. I had picked the movie Death Trap.
Excellent choice, Tim.
Which was released in 82. John picked the movie Jeffrey, which was released in 1985. And the new release this week is American Fiction. So again, thanks to our friends at Deep Discount, and thanks to you for supporting them and supporting all the media that they have offered at their site there. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got ourselves a shop talk that revolves around IKEA, the IKEA brand, as well as our business birthday. So stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back. It's the Focus Group, focusgroupradio.com. I'm John Nash, joined by my good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. And without further ado, the business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Born today, June 19th, 1940, happy 84th, to Cha-Cha Muldowney.
I am in love with this. I can't wait to hear. Go ahead.
Cha-Cha. Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney was born June 19th, 1940. As we said, it's her 84th birthday. She's known as the First Lady of Drag Racing, as in auto cars, not RuPaul. But the First Lady of Drag Racing is an American auto racer. She was the first woman to receive a license from the National Hot Rod Association and to drive what's considered a top fuel dragster. She won the title as Top Fuel Championship in 1977, 1980, 1982, becoming the first person ever to win 2 and 3 top fuel finishes and titles. She won a total of 18 national events with the National Hot Rod Association. Born in Burlington, Vermont, and from there she made her way over to Schenectady, New York, and in the 1950s. She said school had no appeal to her. All she wanted to do was race up and down the streets in a hot rod. And so when she was 16 years old, she married a guy named Jack Muldowney, who was a mechanic, and he would fine-tune cars. And so when she was 16, she was beating all the boys drag racing up around Schenectady, New York on the streets. And she said she found so much fun in that and love in that she decided she would make a career out of it. She said, I was headed for trouble. I had nothing going for me. And she said, I found out that this sport was available at a very young age, but of course women were not necessarily welcome into the sport. She made her debut in 1958 at the drag strip called the Fonda Speedway, and she was able to obtain a license in 1965, the first woman to get a license. And although she said she and her husband drifted apart, they remained friends, but she continued to race in major events. She won her first major title in 1971, and she was able to, again, as I said, get her license. And she had won an unprecedented 3 titles with the National Hot Rod Association. And they said she met enormous opposition for many people that felt that the sport, no matter what realm she played in, it was no place for women. And she said she went up against all odds and proved that women could be just as good in the sport as men. And she did have some supportive women along the way, including Gartletts, who was a famous drag racer who supported her and signed her license in order for her to get to be a drag racer. She said that she also proved to the National Hot Rod Association, who fought her every inch of the way, that said she could fill seats as a woman. And she had a lot of young fans and brought new eyes to the sport. So she certainly broke down some barriers and some walls. She got in a pretty bad crash in 1984, which crushed her hands, pelvis, and legs. And she had 18 months of therapy and over 6 surgeries. It pretty much put her out of commission. She would still do some racing, but really it ended her career. And she formally retired in 2003. But she used to appear, they said, on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And she was a well-known figure in the 70s and 80s as breaking down barriers, particularly for women. And she's had some health scares along the way, but she still goes around to events, hot rod events, and signs autographs and so forth. She also started a charitable organization called Shirley's Kids, which helps children in need in cities where drag racing is part of the community. So if she goes to these drag racing events, she'll also do things for the kids in the community there. So happy birthday to Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney.
Now, Tim, when I think of drag racing, I think of the very long cars.
Yep.
Smaller wheels at the front, the big chunky
Huge
tires
wheels
at
in
the
the back. That's exactly what she did. Yeah.
And with the airfoil thing,
Yeah.
What is that called again?
I think you're right. The airfoil, it's in the back, and it's to slow it down and keep it so it doesn't.
Yeah,
flip.
there's a name for it though, and my mom.
I
used
think
to
you're
have
right.
it on
Airfoil. I think.
Well, she had something
or a
on her
wing.
oat. Yeah, and that was for aerodynamic. So this is like the 2 cars, and for her to slow down, a parachute comes out the back or something. Is that?
Yeah, usually parachutes. Yeah.
Do you think did you learn when you were researching her at all? Did she have brothers that helped her get into this, or did she just fall into this love of racing like by herself? I mean,
no, she said she was, she hung around when they moved. So they left Burlington, Vermont, and they moved to Schenectady in the 50s. And she said she had no interest in school. She was skipping school all the time, it sounded like. And a lot of kids then in the 50s would drag race up and down the streets. And so she saw the guys doing it and decided she wanted to do that as well. And that's why she said, I was headed for trouble. She said, I was just a kid in upstate New York with no guidance or direction. And I was headed for trouble until she met this guy, Jack Muldowney, who built her first dragster, because she said she wanted to race the guys, and everybody thought she was crazy. She ended up beating them all the time. And that's how she decided that she wanted to make a career out of this. But no, it doesn't say anything about any siblings. It's just that she was 16 and her husband at the time was 19. And she decided she was going to get into drag racing. Everybody told her she couldn't. And she said she could, and she did it, and she proved that she was the first person to win 3 titles.
I think it's a fascinating business birthday, and I think she's cool. It's a spoiler or a foil, right?
Yeah.
Was spoiler for the front of the car, or I forget how that sequence went, but it was supposed to make you more aerodynamic, and people would slap these on any car, but for her and for drag racing, they actually were essential. But very cool.
I was surprised to hear that she was still alive, and I thought she would be someone interesting to speak with.
Mm-hmm.
I bet her stories and her just her
Tim,
life story
that's a
would
great
be quite
idea.
interesting.
For certain business birthdays, if we know in advance, it'd be fun to have someone on, because it's not 50-50. I'd say it's 70-30 that when we do business birthday or you do it, the person's deceased, but
Right.
30% of the times it's a happy birthday. They're still alive. And that would be a fun way of getting information out of them. It's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, it was like when we had Dick Cavett on, and he was able to kind of fill in the blanks on a lot of what his memoir was about. So I wonder if I can get a hold of her. Maybe I'll try. She'd be interesting to talk to. Well, it's just breaking down barriers and what it was like in the 50s and
Yeah.
60s to be told, and such a male testosterone-laden sport as drag racing. I mean,
You
the
would
fact
hope
that
it
she
would
went
be
in there and kicked their asses.
Mm-hmm. And you would hope it would be a different kind of thing than then I went to the Board of Health and then I did this and put down the
You never know
fork.
what you're going to get.
Yeah, you never know. Tim and I had the pleasure of interviewing Jean Nidich, who is the founder of Weight Watchers many years ago. She was 92 at the time. And she had about a 15-minute loop that would repeat, and you'd get the story again. But, it still was fun. Hey, it still makes us
Had to call her at
smile
10:20. 10:20 in the morning. She's
10:20.
on.
She's on, but she's off at 10:45. You want to be very careful about that. All right, we teased at the before the break. We have a shop talk for you, and it's about IKEA and how they went about fixing their turnover problem. And I'm going to simply say this: I was shocked that they lose about 60,000 employees a year. It is a retail business. That's not unusual, but for the scale of their company, that's about worldwide. That's how many people. They claim that when they lose an employee, it costs the company about $5,500. So,
Wow.
my math says that you're looking at almost $33 million in the cost of not being able to retain your employees, because I guess that's training and a bunch of other stuff. So they examined the problem, and here's what they did. They made scheduling easier. They streamlined people's tasks. In other words, they made the place a far more accommodating company to work for. And I'm reading this, and I don't know if you had the same response I did, but I was like, well, this sounds very common sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, accommodate your schedules for people, and but maybe that's just me. But I think they've managed to get the turnover rate down, which is exactly what I mean. Because when you look at that line item, even if it was less $5 million a year, you'd still say that's a lot of money we're spending to lose people. What was your takeaway of this?
I was, to me, I thought it was overly simplistic in some ways.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's simply, they prioritize their employees' wants and needs, and in order to keep people stay. And I was surprised exactly what you pulled out about how much money they say they lose when somebody leaves. And I guess that's because of training and what it costs to recruit people and so forth. But they said that they really wanted to address the employees' needs and why were they leaving or what were they leaving for. And it really was around better pay, more flexibility, and some new technologies in order to keep people on the job. And I thought, isn't that just a basic, I would have thought that to me was a basic thing in terms of keeping employees happy, whether you can blame the pandemic or not. But I do, on the other side of the coin, I suppose, it's they recognize there was an issue with people leaving. Retail is extremely hard to keep people to stay as a career. And I thought they recognized there was an issue. It was important to do something or do something different or to highlight it. And kudos to IKEA for doing it to slow down the turnover.
Yeah, that number, by the way, accounts for 1/3. That's 1/3 of their worldwide staff was constantly turning over, which is something. And they even looked at they polled their employees. They had, I guess, internal focus groups is what you would call it. Something as simple as an employee leaving the company after having children because the benefits were not that great and it was going to cost them more to so that's a tweak to the HR formula. Wages are clearly an issue, trying to accommodate people's schedules. But I think, Tim, your assessment is spot on. I felt the same way when I read this. I was like, wow, this sounds sort of simple, and I'm wondering why it took that long to get that aligned correctly.
Well, I know just with in my experience as a commissioner here in the city in terms of staffing, it really was about flexibility. It was about increase in pay because the competitiveness out there in terms of what Amazon, for instance, is paying a warehouse worker $20 an hour. And then it was another big thing is the cost of health care and whether your family could be covered under health care. So it's really those issues, and I thought those are pretty standard across the line. Although they talk about here, because they have over 62,000 people globally, they did talk about some of the challenges individually in places like Japan and France, where there were some different issues that they needed to tackle. And
And then unions too, right?
Yeah, and unions are a huge issue in some places. But I thought if at least they've recognized the problem. IKEA reminds me a little bit like Starbucks, in that they try to be very, very employee-centric, and sometimes it works really well. And Starbucks is in a world of hurt right now.
Yes.
For a number of reasons, employee union related and keeping people. But they've done the right thing in terms of paying their employees well, offering health care benefits to part-time employees, offering school credits and those sort of things for paying for education. But I don't know. I think it's very difficult to be a brick and mortar right now. Have you been to IKEA lately?
We haven't been in quite a while. Last time we went, we always pick up something, but I haven't had a need to be there for quite a while. What was
it was weird. I'd gone for probably
Do you guys
the last
have one
6
close
months. No, but there's 2 in Philadelphia, and so I
Okay.
was up in Philadelphia, and I stopped in to look at some shelving, and it was too heavy for me to take myself to put into the car. And then I went online, and the same thing they were selling in the store for $200 was $79 online.
Are you serious?
So I thought, well, okay. So I go to order, but then it costs $200 to ship, right? And of course, I'm in what they call some sort of odd zone. I might as well be in
A foreign country.
Whitefish,
Yeah.
Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'm really not up near D.C., near Philly, near Baltimore. I don't think it's so tough to get something here. It took forever for the item to get here. It's still sitting in the living room. And but the shipping costs more than the product.
Whenever you said that, I was thinking of Mrs. C. I'm not going to get you today. I'm not going to get you tomorrow. I'm going to get you. You're like $79, but guess
Right.
what? Yeah.
Guess what? Right, I should have, had a couple kids help me load it into the car.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So but I do like IKEA. But I do think, they certainly have a niche, and they certainly offer something that you're not going to get at some other places, other shops or other stores. So I think they will survive some of this brick and mortar decline that we've seen. But they've got to have to take care of the employees. I did notice that there were far fewer employees. They were one of the first to get away from offering bags. You had to buy a bag. And the checkout process at IKEA has never been easy. I think it's always a pain in the ass.
I agree.
The help is never on top of it. So, but, there you go.
Not a bad. I'm glad you picked that one out because I read it and then I thought, is it really this simple?
Yeah.
do you really just accommodate schedule, tweak the benefits, and pay people more? And the answer is yes. But
Yes.
I guess
And people will be loyal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, hey, thanks for joining us today. As always, we appreciate the time you spend with us. Be sure to also check out focusgroupradio.com, where you'll find our podcast, which is called TFG Unbuttoned, which is released every Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, it's 20 minutes in and out. And while you're there, you can find all of our media and past shows of both Unbuttoned and this show, The Focus Group, with Tim Bennett and John Nash. You'll also find our sponsors there, including one of our partners, Deep Discount. They've got a site-wide summer sale going on right now, as we mentioned earlier. There were 3 picks for you this week. I had picked Death Trap. John had picked Jeffrey. And the new release this week is American Fiction. So we hope all of you have a good week. And remember, don't text and drive, arrive alive when you're out there driving around this summer and all this traffic and craziness, particularly in the Northeast, when we see so many people just on their phones stupidly. I don't know, maybe they're playing Wordle. I don't know.
That's even worse, Tim.
Yeah.
That's worse.
So everyone have a good week, and we'll see you next time on The Focus Group. Take care.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.